Throughout human history, it is a thing of awe and wonder to encounter men and women who have at some point in time, predicted about the futuristic occurrence of an event, or technological breakthrough, long before that event or breakthrough even came to pass. Such is the foresight and convictions of some of these men and women, and the accuracy of their predictions, that they leave the whole world in great amazement and respect for them. So the aim of this video is to unveil the exploration of some of those visionary moments when individuals dared to gaze into the future, offering insights that not only defied their contemporary norms, but also manifested as undeniable truths, with the passage of time. From profound prophecies to groundbreaking forecasts, making us to marvel at the remarkable accuracy with which some of these men foresaw these unfolding events that would leave an indelible mark on the pages of history. So join us as we take a look at some of these convergence points where prophecy meets reality, in this riveting and exciting exploration of man's predictive power. And so we begin with 1. Morgan Robertson, the man who predicted the sinking of the Titanic 14 years before it happened. In the year 1898, a prolific writer by name, Morgan Robertson wrote a novel titled Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan. In this book, he detailed how the largest ship ever made by man crashed into an iceberg and sank on its maiden voyage. Does it sound familiar? The RMS Titanic sank under those exact circumstances 14 years later after his prediction. Regarded as one of the most accurate and strangest coincidences in all of history. According to the book, the Titanic sank sometime in April, similar to the month that the actual Titanic sank. He also predicted the name of the ship to be Titanic in his book, and in reality, the real ship happened to be named Titanic. The book also claimed that the Titanic was over 100 feet long, and also displaced more than 45,000 tons, similar to the real Titanic, which was actually 882 feet long, and displaced about 46,010 tons. Both ships were described as unsinkable and having a shortage of lifeboats. Both ships were described as carrying about 2,200 passengers, out of which the majority of the passengers suffered a terrible fate. Looking back, one would be surprised at the strange nature of the book and the way it matched the sinking of the Titanic in real life. 2. Mark Twain, the man who predicted his own death. Born in November 1835, a short while after Halley's Comet had made an appearance in the sky. In 1909, Twain was quoted as saying, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet." And sure enough, on the 21st of April 1910, just one day after the famous comet reappeared, Twain suffered a heart attack and passed away. And the world was amazed and held in awe of this prediction, and how it actually came to pass. 3. Nicola Tesla, the man who predicted about cell phones and the internet long before it came to pass. Nikola Tesla nailed it, when in the early 19th century, he predicted with such audacity, that someday people would be walking around with cell phones in their pockets. To put it in his exact words the way he said it, during an interview with the New York Times, he said, "It will soon be possible to transmit wireless messages all over the world so simply that any individual can carry and operate his own apparatus." He said, "We shall be able to communicate with one another instantly, irrespective of distance. Not only through television and telephone, but we shall see and hear one another as perfectly as though we were having a face-to-face conversation." This quote was recorded as far back as 1926. 4. Jonathan Swift, the man who predicted the 2 moons of Mars as way back as 1726. More than 100 years before man ever learnt that Mars has 2 moons, named Phobos and Deimos, Jonathan Swift made an educated guess about the existence of these 2 moons in his 1726 novel titled Gulliver's Travels, where he wrote about the 2 lesser stars, or satellites, which revolve about Mars. Even more surprisingly was the fact that he predicted their exact size and speeds of rotation, given that no knowledge or technology existed yet then, that would have made Mars visible. So one would wonder how could Swift possibly have known this, if not for divine inspiration. 5. Jules Verne, he predicted that one day man would land in moon, and this was way longer before man ever thought it possible. French novelist Jules Verne in his 1865 novel, titled From Earth to the Moon, predicted, with detailed and accurate precision, the circumstances and characteristics of the equipment, and even the possibility of man ever getting to the moon. When he even wrote about the weightlessness that astronauts experienced in space, something an author in the mid-19th century would have no way of knowing. Verne even predicted that there would be 3 astronauts on that first moon mission. This was over a century before man actually landed on the moon. He also included several other details that are remarkably accurate. For instance, in his book, the rocket launch was from Florida, coincidentally, that is now the site of the Kennedy Space Center, where the famous Apollo missions were launched from. In the book, he called his spacecraft Columbia. The real Apollo 11 command module was named Columbia. He also said that the astronauts would return safely to Earth by parachuting into the sea, before awaiting rescue, and true to his words, the crew of Apollo 11 splashed down in the Pacific Ocean aided by parachutes and similarly awaited rescue. 6. Robert Boyle, he predicted that one day man will be able to transplant organs to save lives. Robert Boyle created a wish list documented in his personal journal about the use of major organ transplants in the cure for major ailments and diseases, given the fact he was writing in a time before the word science was even coined, and magic was still very much believed in. So it was a thing of shock when the first organ transplant was carried out in 1954, some 300 years after his prediction. Almost all of his predictions have come true, including his belief that one day science would be able to cure all diseases by transplantation. Sure, we haven't quite cured all diseases just yet, but organ transplants have made some deadly diseases less deadly. The fact that he made this prediction in 1660, when the medical world knew so little about how internal organs actually worked, is kind of incredible. 7. From 2013, an Italian dreamed Pope Benedict's resignation and replacement by Pope Francis. On February 11, 2013, a woman tweeted that her boyfriend told her about a dream he had, where Pope Benedict resigned and a man named Francesco replaced him. 17 days later, Pope Benedict surprisingly announced his retirement, and we all know what happened next. 8. Alexander Graham Bell, the man who predicted about the greenhouse effect long before it came to limelight. Alexander Graham Bell, better known to most people as the inventor of the telephone, made a surprising warning in a 1917 paper, where he said that, if not checked, the burning of fossil fuels would have some sort of effect on our climate, and would eventually cause the Earth to become a sort of hothouse. He suggested alcohol, as an alternative source of fuel, and devices that would collect solar power from sunlight and use it as an energy source. His ideas didn't get much traction at the time, but 100 years later, global warming is the center of a worldwide debate, and virtually every country now is switching to solar energy as an alternative source of energy. And so with this we have come to the end of this interesting and exciting video. We hope you enjoyed it. Do join us again as we bring you more interesting and educative videos ahead. Please share, subscribe and drop a comment or two below. Thanks for watching.